There are countless women who succeed in public life without losing their femininity. On the contrary, they succeeded precisely because of it. Carl Jung.
There are women who walk into a room and immediately alter its atmosphere. Not because they are the youngest or the most glamorous, but because something about them lingers in the air. An aura you cannot name, yet cannot ignore. Men find themselves drawn closer. Conversations soften when they speak, and people remember them long after they've gone. It feels almost mysterious, as if they carry a secret the rest of us have overlooked. Perhaps you have seen this yourself. The friend who never wore the most expensive clothes, yet everyone trusted her presence. The widow who, in her 60s, carried herself with such grace that strangers wanted to know her story. Or maybe you've wondered why, even when beauty fades and time leaves its marks, some women only grow more captivating. What is it that they have discovered that others spend a lifetime chasing? Carl Jung once reminded us that what unsettles or attracts us in others is often a reflection of what we have not yet understood in ourselves. And nowhere is this more evident than in the way men respond to women who project a rare kind of confidence and mystery. The question is not whether this magnetism exists. It clearly does, but how it is formed and why it deepens with age rather than disappears. In today's conversation, we will peel back those layers together, not through tricks or surface advice, but through stories, reflections, and psychology that reveal why certain women remain unforgettable. I won't tell you everything now. You will see for yourself as we move deeper. But I can promise, if you stay with me until the end, you may begin to notice these patterns not only in others, but in your own life, in your own presence. If this message resonates with you, I warmly invite you to like this video and subscribe to my channel, Jungian Mindshift, for more reflections we can explore together. Let us now walk into the doorway of Jung's most striking truth, that what captures us is rarely what the eye first sees.
Confidence is perceived before makeup. Confidence is the very first thing people sense, often before a single word is spoken or a detail of appearance is noticed. You can enter a room wearing the most elegant dress, yet if your shoulders are tense and your gaze uncertain, others will feel that hesitation. On the other hand, even with simple clothes and no makeup, a woman who walks with calm assurance immediately commands attention. Think of a time you saw someone who did not fit conventional beauty standards, but whose posture and presence made her unforgettable. It is not her lipstick or her hairstyle that lingers in your memory. It is the way she looked directly at the world, as if she had nothing to hide and nothing to prove. That kind of self-possession leaves a mark far stronger than any surface detail. Psychology has studied this phenomenon for decades. Research shows that people with high self-confidence are consistently rated as more attractive, regardless of their physical features. Carl Jung would suggest this is no accident, because what others see in you is often a mirror of what you believe about yourself. If you project insecurity, people unconsciously feel it. If you project quiet certainty, they feel that too, and it draws them closer. So how do we cultivate this kind of presence? It begins with the body. A straight back, a lifted head, a voice that does not rush or stumble. All of these are signals that you are at peace in your own skin. These signals are subtle, yet they are the very first language of attraction. When you master them, you speak volumes without needing to utter a single word. Let me ask you something here. When you picture yourself walking into a gathering, what do you think people notice first about you? Is it your outfit, Your face? Your hair? Or is it the energy you carry as you move through the room? Take a moment to reflect on this, because the answer might reveal more than you realize. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective can inspire someone else watching today. Confidence also means being comfortable with silence. Many people rush to fill every pause, fearing that quiet moments expose weakness. But the truth is the opposite. A woman who is not afraid of silence shows she does not need to grasp for validation. She lets her presence do the work, and that stillness becomes magnetic. The beauty of confidence is that it is not fixed, it can be practiced. By standing tall each morning, by speaking slowly instead of rushing, by looking people in the eye, you train your mind and body to align with self-assurance. Over time, this becomes second nature, and others begin to respond in ways that surprise you. They lean in, they listen more closely, they treat you with more respect. And this is only the beginning, because once a woman embraces confidence as her first language, another shift becomes possible. She realizes she no longer needs to cling to attention or chase after reassurance. Instead, she learns how to let others come toward her. Which brings us to the second habit that changes the entire balance of power in attraction.
2. A woman who doesn't cling controls the interaction. Desire has always thrived in the space between presence and absence. When a woman does not cling, when she is not constantly available, something almost magical happens. Curiosity grows. The human heart, especially the male heart, is wired to value what requires effort. If he feels you are always waiting, the spark begins to fade. But if you create room for him to seek you out, his energy rises to meet yours. We see this truth everywhere. Think about the times you have received a message after days of silence, and suddenly that person occupied more space in your mind than before. The same rule works in reverse. When a woman fills every gap, when she answers instantly, when she revolves her world around a man's attention, she unwittingly makes herself ordinary. Scarcity creates value, and presence without pressure is irresistible. Carl Jung might call this a dance between attachment and individuation. To cling is to lose the self, to dissolve into the other. To hold your own ground while allowing connection is to honor both souls. A woman who understands this carries herself with dignity, never begging for love, but allowing love to arrive freely. That freedom is what makes her magnetic. Imagine two women. The first checks her phone every few minutes, anxious for a reply. Her day feels empty until he acknowledges her. The second keeps her phone aside while she goes for a walk, paints, or laughs with friends. When his message finally arrives, she smiles and replies at her pace because she has not been waiting to breathe. Which one feels more captivating? Which one seems harder to forget? Psychology confirms this pattern as well. Studies on uncertainty in relationships show that when people are unsure of how much another values them, their attraction tends to grow. It may sound paradoxical, but the unknown keeps interest alive. A woman who does not cling introduces that healthy uncertainty, not by playing games, but by simply having a full life that does not shrink to fit another person's availability. This does not mean coldness or indifference. It does not mean pushing people away or pretending you do not care. It means choosing yourself first so that when you do give attention, it comes from abundance rather than desperation. A woman with this mindset radiates calm independence, and that independence makes her presence a prize, not a guarantee. Over time, she learns a deeper lesson. When she stops clinging, she gains control of the rhythm. She becomes the one who sets the tone of the connection, not through demands, but through quiet self-respect. And once this balance is established, everything changes. She is no longer at the mercy of another's response. She moves at her own pace, and men naturally adjust to hers. From this point forward, the external layer of attraction begins to reflect the internal one. Confidence and independence start to shape not only her energy, but also her style, her outward expression of power. Which brings us to the next habit, one that may seem superficial at first glance, but in truth is a mirror of the inner self, the creation of a personal style that projects authority and allure.
3. A style that reflects your personal power. Style has never been just about clothing. It is the language the world reads before you even speak. A woman may wear the simplest dress, yet if that dress carries her essence, it communicates more than 100 words ever could. Style is not an accessory, it is an extension of the inner self, projected outward for others to witness. Consider the woman who chooses colors deliberately. Red speaks of passion and strength, announcing she is unafraid to be seen. Black that wraps her in mystery and elegance, a quiet reminder that some stories are not meant to be told at once. Navy blue that suggests intelligence and calm authority, a hue that makes others listen more carefully. Every shade she wears is not random. It is a deliberate stroke in the painting of her presence. Clothing, when chosen with intention, becomes armor and poetry at the same time. The cut of a jacket that sharpens her shoulders, the softness of silk that moves as she walks, the steady comfort of well-fitted shoes that keep her grounded, all of these are signals, almost invisible, yet deeply felt. They whisper, "Here is a woman who knows her own weight in the world." Jung would have described style as a dialogue between the persona and the self. The persona, the outward mask we show society, often hides our insecurities. But when the mask is chosen consciously, aligned with authenticity rather than fear, it stops being a disguise and becomes a symbol of power. The woman who wears her truth, instead of hiding behind costumes, radiates harmony between her inner and outer worlds. There is also the subtle fragrance that follows her, a scent tied to memory and emotion. It does not need to be strong or expensive. A touch of floral can recall tenderness. A trace of sandalwood can awaken depth and stability. A light citrus can spark freshness and vitality. Long after she leaves, her essence lingers in the air, and people remember not just her look, but the feeling she carried with her. Hair and makeup serve the same principle. It is not the heaviness of powder or the strict perfection of style that matters, but the way they highlight her natural essence. A well-chosen haircut frames her features like a sculptor defining the shape of stone. A touch of color on the lips can transform an ordinary moment into something unforgettable. The goal is not to cover, but to reveal. Not to impress, but to express. This is why style is never about chasing the newest trend. Trends change with every season. Essence endures. A woman who tries to dress as someone else is easily forgotten, but the one who shapes her own image, consistent and unique, becomes iconic in her circle, remembered as much for her presence as for her clothes. Her style is not decoration, it is declaration. As time passes, she learns that personal style is not vanity, but voice. It is a way of telling the world who she is before a single conversation begins. And once that voice is clear, it does not shout, it resonates. Which naturally leads us to the next dimension of magnetism. Not how she looks, but how she moves in her relationships, radiating a feminine energy that attracts without force.
4. A feminine energy that magnetizes. There is a kind of strength that does not roar. It does not demand the spotlight or fight for control. Yet, it bends the room quietly toward itself. This is feminine energy, the essence that draws without chasing, receives without begging, and influences without the need to dominate. It is often misunderstood as weakness, but in truth, it is the opposite. It is a form of power that never needs to prove itself. When a woman is at ease in her feminine energy, she becomes magnetic in the most natural way. She does not need to constantly initiate, plan, or carry the weight of every interaction. Instead, she allows space for a man to lean in, to rise into his own energy, and to meet her where she stands. By not overreaching, she creates the subtle tension that keeps desire alive. Carl Jung would describe this as a balance of opposites, the dance of anima and animus within human relationships. Masculine energy strives, builds, and pursues. Feminine energy softens, receives, and inspires. When one overwhelms the other, the dance stumbles. But when they are balanced, attraction becomes effortless, a harmony that feels both mysterious and inevitable. Picture a woman in conversation. She is not rushing to fill every silence. Her voice is calm, measured, and unhurried. She listens with genuine presence, her body language open, her gaze steady yet soft. She does not press or push, and yet somehow the other person leans closer, as if compelled by an invisible pull. That is the quiet force of feminine magnetism. Now let me ask you, have you ever met someone who made you feel calm just by being near them without a single word of persuasion? That experience is the essence of this energy. It reminds us that true attraction has less to do with effort and more to do with the quality of presence we bring into a moment. Share your reflections if you feel moved, because your story may open another person's eyes to something they have overlooked. Living in this energy does not mean passivity or indifference. It does not mean waiting helplessly for others to take action. It means trusting that your presence already has value, that you do not need to overextend to be noticed. When a woman trusts her energy in this way, she creates room for pursuit, curiosity, and wonder. Men feel invited, not controlled, and in that invitation, attraction naturally deepens. The most captivating women know that their influence does not come from outshining others, but from embodying who they are with grace. They allow mystery to exist. They do not give everything away at once, because they understand that curiosity is the soil where desire grows. Feminine energy thrives in patience, in openness, and in the willingness to let things unfold rather than force them. And once this balance is understood, conversation itself transforms. For magnetism is not only in how you move, but in how you speak, in the art of words, pauses, and subtle connection. This takes us to the next secret, one that reveals why some women captivate entire rooms without ever raising their voice: the mastery of conversation.
5. Mastering the art of conversation. There is an invisible thread that binds people together in dialogue, and it is not made of words alone. A captivating woman understands this instinctively. She knows that silence can speak louder than speech, that tone can weigh more than content, and that presence during conversation can create intimacy far deeper than a flood of details. Many women believe that to be engaging they must talk more, share everything, or impress with clever stories. Yet the truth is often the reverse. When words are chosen with care, when pauses are allowed to breathe, when the gaze rests with steadiness, conversation becomes more than information. It becomes a shared moment of curiosity and anticipation. Psychology reminds us that most communication is nonverbal. The subtle rise of an eyebrow, the warmth of a smile, the cadence of a voice, all of these send signals that shape attraction more powerfully than the actual content of speech. Jung might say that the unconscious speaks through these channels, revealing layers of the self that no amount of rehearsed talking could achieve. Imagine two women sitting across from a man. One rushes through her sentences, nervous, filling every silence, her words spilling as if silence itself were dangerous. The other speaks slowly, leaving space, letting the pauses create weight. She shares only enough to spark interest, holding back details so that he leans forward, eager for more. Which conversation lingers after the evening ends? It is not about volume, but about rhythm. There is also the subtle art of listening. A woman who listens, not with impatience, but with full presence, creates a field where another person feels valued. She does not interrupt or rush the story. Instead, her attention becomes a mirror that reflects significance back to the speaker. This simple act transforms an ordinary exchange into an unforgettable connection. Conversation, when approached with intention, becomes a dance between revealing and concealing. Too much openness too quickly dissolves intrigue. Too much mystery without warmth feels cold. The magnetic woman finds balance, sharing enough to invite, withholding enough to sustain curiosity. It is in this balance that the heart awakens and remembers. Mastery here does not require perfect vocabulary or rehearsed lines. It requires comfort with silence, confidence in pauses, and a willingness to let meaning hang in the air before being resolved. Each phrase, each glance becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of connection. Over time, she learns that it is not the story itself that captivates, but the way it is told. And when a woman masters this, she discovers that attraction extends beyond the moment of dialogue. It becomes a reflection of who she is, measured, thoughtful, mysterious, alive. But conversation alone cannot sustain fascination. Beneath it all lies something even more powerful, something that fuels every interaction and radiates beyond words. Independence. It is here, in the refusal to be defined by anyone else, that the deepest magnetism is born.
6. Independence is the greatest aphrodisiac. There is nothing more captivating than a woman whose life is already full. A woman who rises in the morning with a sense of purpose, who carries dreams and projects that are hers alone, who does not measure her worth by the attention she receives. Her independence is not loud or defiant. It is quiet, steady, and undeniable, and men feel it the moment they encounter her. When someone builds her entire world around a relationship, she becomes fragile. The absence of a call unsettles her. The silence of a day feels like rejection, and her happiness lives in someone else's pocket. But when she has her own world, a circle of friends who uplift her, passions that light her eyes, skills and goals that stretch her forward, she becomes radiant with vitality. She does not wait to be chosen. She is already choosing life. This independence is not about being alone forever or shutting people out. It is about being complete on your own, so that when love arrives, it adds to your life instead of filling a void. Jung's psychology speaks of individuation, the process of becoming whole. In relationships, this wholeness means you meet the other not from need, but from fullness. Two complete people create a bond far more enduring than two halves desperately clinging to each other. Consider the woman who spends her weekends exploring new places, learning a new skill, or building a project that excites her. She radiates enthusiasm even when no one is watching. When a man steps into her orbit, he does not see someone waiting for him to provide meaning. He sees someone already alive, already shining. That is why independence is so magnetic. It carries the signal that she is whole, and wholeness is always attractive. There is also the truth that people desire what feels expansive. When a woman brings an entire world with her, friends, art, laughter, knowledge, she becomes a universe in which others want to dwell. A man does not need to be her sun, her source of identity. He simply wants to be part of the constellation she has created. That sense of richness is the true aphrodisiac. Independence also shields against the traps of desperation. A woman who knows her value does not lower her standards for fleeting affection. She does not chase after those who fail to see her worth. She understands that rejection is not a verdict on her essence, but merely a sign that someone was not aligned with her path. This calm resilience makes her presence even more alluring. Over time, independence transforms into freedom of choice. She decides where her energy goes, who deserves her attention, and which relationships enrich her rather than deplete her. That power is subtle but unmistakable. Men sense it immediately. They know she is not there out of fear of loneliness, but out of genuine desire. And desire born from freedom is the strongest kind. As we gather the threads of all 6 habits together, a larger truth comes into view. Attraction, as Jung reminded us, is not built on age or beauty alone. It is built on presence, on confidence, on style, on energy, on the way we connect, and finally, on the independence that makes us whole. This is the essence that lingers long after words are forgotten and appearances fade. When we look back at these 6 habits, a pattern emerges. True attraction has little to do with youth or flawless beauty. It rests in the way a woman inhabits her life, with confidence, with freedom from clinging, with a style that reflects her inner power, with an energy that invites without forcing, with words that connect instead of overwhelm, and above all, with an independence that makes her whole. Carl Jung once suggested that what we find irresistible in another is often a reflection of what lies dormant within ourselves. Perhaps this is why the women who embody these qualities appear so luminous. They remind us of the strength, depth, and mystery we all carry, but sometimes forget. If these reflections stirred something in you, take them not as rules, but as reminders. Live them in your own way. Let them shape not only how others see you, but how you see yourself. And if this journey has resonated, I warmly invite you to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Not as a ritual, but as a way to keep weaving this conversation together. Until next time, may you carry your own presence with the quiet certainty that it is, and always has been, enough.